Alright, hello everybody, it's Sarah, and I may not have high-tech quality stuff, but I can share with you this book. I'm going to read this book to you guys. It's called Cleopatra VII, Daughter of the Nile, and I'm going to read the back to you because I want you guys to get a taste for it, and if you don't like it, just exit out of the video. 3 January morning. I could feel my insides shaking. Would this sister try to poison me? Yes, I believe so. As for my other older sister, Bernice, never. She and I adore each other, even though I'm 8 years younger. I took the cup and raised it toward Kristiana, as if toasting her. But really, I was watching the liquid, looking for oil floating on its surface, or powder sticking to the sides of the cup. I suspected poison and if I suspected poison and tossed it into the pool, she would have her guards behead me on the spot. If it was indeed poison, one sip, and I could die. My eyes closed as I took the first sip, as if savoring such an excellent taste. But really, my thought was, oh Isis, I am afraid. My stomach turned with nervousness. Or was it from fearsome death beginning in me? Alright, so I'll give you guys a couple seconds to click off. Alright, let's get reading. This book is in the Royal Diaries series, and it's by Kristiana Gregory. Cleopatra VII, Daughter of the Nile. Scrolls 1 through 7, 57 BC. 3 January morning. I, Cleopatra, Princess of the Nile, write this in my own hand. Many rooms in this palace are mine, but this small one is northeast corner. The northeast corner is my favorite. It overlooks the sea. Waves beat wildly against the shore, for another storm is upon us, our fifth this winter. The clouds are dark, even wrapped in my chiton, I feel cold. And if I mispronounce any of the words, don't be a hater in the comments. It is most urgent that I record the troubling events of this week. Father has gone into hiding, having fled for his life. Though it is the 23rd year of his reign, he is in danger of losing his throne. He is, of course, King Ptolemy Auletes, honored Pharaoh of Egypt. 3 nights ago, while Father slept, a deadly puff adder was found circled at the foot of his bed, ready to strike. Father's old unch, Mento, who sleeps in the floor next to him, was awakened by his hiss. He threw himself at the snake and tried to strangle it, but was bitten on the wrist. He died in torment a few minutes later. Father watched the snake slide off the bed and across the marble floor. As I write this, it has not been caught. An accident? Perhaps, thought Father. Until today, because he mourns Mento, his beloved slave since boyhood, Father has refused comfort. When wine was brought to him this morning with hopes it would make his heart merry, a royal cupbearer seemed nervous, for he held the tray on the goblet rattled. Why are you shaking? Father demanded. When the men did not answer, Father angrily motioned for the cupbearer to take the first sip. Quickly, which he did. I was standing behind a column watching. When the goblet and silver tray fell onto the floor, the crash echoed through the wide hall. I covered my mouth to silence my scream, but guards came running. The cupbearer lay in a puddle of wine, wreathing in agony meant for my father. Moments later he was dead. The poison was probably from the Edo plant, as it is swift and deadly as a snake. Okay, so I do not agree with anything in this book. Maybe some things, but not everything. Like, I don't agree with slaves, and I don't agree with a lot of other things, but I'm just reading it, and if you guys don't agree with this, just stop hearing, just stop listening to the thing. Alright, to continue. Where father has hidden and with whom I do not know. His suite of rooms has been taken over by my eldest sister, Kristiana, who was long amid the sweeping view of the sea from his balcony. Father's servants do not argue with her because she's as snappy and cold-eyed as a crocodile. I do not trust Kristiana. She wants to be queen and has mocked her father for being a poor leader, though how she became an expert on leadership, I cannot guess. When I visit her late this afternoon, she was soaking in a heated pool that is in the center of father's atrium. Her maids were about her, pouring in fragrant oils and washing her back. Others were airing out the silk bed covers and pillows. It is no coincidence that her name means pleasure seeker. I recognized the high voice of her favorite male slave singing behind a lattice Persian. He was playing a lyre, the small harp preferred in our royal court. "What is it, little Cleopatra?" Kristiana asked me, lifting her eyebrows with boredom. "Where is father?" I asked her. When is he coming back?" To show her I was not leaving until she answered, I removed my sandals. A maid took them and handed me a linen towel. I folded it and placed it on one of the benches so I could sit without feeling the cold marble against my legs. At this my sister raised herself out of the pool. "You dare sit in my presence?" she said. Two guides who were standing on the balcony took one step toward me, touching the swords that were strapped to their waists. I'm careful what I say to this sister. She is 10 years older than I, and just because I'm 12, she rules over me by that fact alone. I lowered my eyes to show respect. "When you are queen, Kristiana, I will kneel before you." She sunk back into the pool, up to her shoulders, and raised her hand, snapping her fingers. A Nubian girl wearing a brown tunic appeared with a tray. A goblet of wine and a bowl of figs were offered to me. I could feel my insides shaking. Would this sister try to poison me? Yes, I believe so. As far as my older sister Bernice, never. She and I adore each other, even though I'm 8 years younger. And I'll just skip this because that was on the back. And then this is the little part that skips over. I raised the cup to my lips and tasted no bitterness on the rim. My eyes closed as I took the first sip, as if savoring such an excellent taste. But really, my thought was, "Oh, Isis, I am afraid." But does Isis hear a girl's prayer? My heart raced as I drank, my stomach turned with nervousness, or was it from fearsome death beginning in me? 3 sips later, I returned the goblet to the tray, then reached for a fig, which I rolled between my fingers. It felt sticky. Kristiana looked at me through narrow eyes, and as a cat might look at a tiny bird, trying to decide if a capture is worth the effort. After a moment, she tipped her head back to soak her hair in the water. When her eyes closed, I returned the fig to the bowl and wiped my hand on my chiton. A maid leaned over the pool with a tiny jar of oil, which she poured over Kristiana's scalp and then combed through her dark hair. I waited for my sister to speak, counting my heartbeats, a wonderful relief flooding over me that I was alive. "Now then, Cleopatra," she said, her eyes still closed for the dripping water. "What is it you wanted to know about our father?" I stood and took my sandals from the maid. "May our father be blessed that you occupy his rooms," I said. Evening. Now it is twilight. The wind has quieted, and I can see that the waves have also. The ocean is becoming darker blue as night nears. Oh, where is father? I hope he can see the lighthouse on Pharaoh's Island. I know its bright light is meant for sailors approaching the harbor, but I think it's also for kings who sleep in a lonely place. I'm ready to put away this paper and cheer myself up with the bath. First, I must check the underground fire room to make sure the slaves have not fallen asleep again. This is something that enrages Tryphenia. She demands that they keep the coals going at all times, fanning hot air through pipes under the floors, so she can soak at any hour of the day or night. Thinking of Tryphenia makes me tired. I hope she is elsewhere in the palace tonight, perhaps reclining on her couch in the banquet hall. Oh, Isis, let the wine put her to sleep quickly. Arrow, my sweet leopard, has jumped onto my bed, purring loudly. Her front paws are as big as my hands, and she is now licking those paws to watch her long, silvery whiskers. Moments ago she finished eating a thick chunk of roasted lamb given to her by the royal cook. "Good cat," I tell her, stroking the huge spotted head as I have every night since she was a kitten. Once I fall asleep, Arrow will leave my chamber to roam the dark gardens. Since she has just been fed, she will not bother our little cats, who are out hunting mice and beetles. But woe to intruders. A leopard hides in the shadows of our palace walls. I'm going to read, a couple more pages. This many pages. 7th of January. This morning, early, I slipped out to the tomb of King Alexander the Great, the founder of our city. It is near enough to the palace that I was back before my sisters were awake. The building is marble with open sides and steps leading down to the tomb, candles on every ledge. Because guards are here day and night, it is safe for me to come by myself. I knelt at the side of his coffin. A glass dome covers it, but the glass is an older type, pitted with sand in places and rippled, as if one were looking through the dark water when Alexander died of fever in Babylon. Babylon? Tell me down below what this word is. Babylon. I'm just calling it Babylon. His body was brought back to Egypt and embalmed in the same manner as our pharaohs. The embalmers painted his cheeks and lips red. His hair is a golden yellow with orange tint above his forehead. If this is paint, I do not know, though he is a mummy who still appears to be about 30 years old. Alexander lies on his back, his hands folded across his chest, wearing an embroidered Persian vest buttoned at his waist. A skirt made of thin leather strips comes down to his knees. Draped over his shoulder is a beautiful scarlet cloak, the wool still untouched by moths. I wish I could see what type of sandals he is wearing, but a shield of hammered gold covers his feet. Did I mention that Alexander the Great has been dead for nearly 300 years? Father says there's an ancient Hebrew prophecies about the king, a Messiah, who will bring peace and forgiveness. This king will have lived for a time in Egypt. When he dies, his body will not decay. He will rise from the dead, and all of the kings will bow down to him. All nations will serve him. The government will be on his shoulders. Some people in the city believe that because Alexander already conquered so much of the world and was in Egypt, he might be the Messiah. Thus the many guards to protect his tomb. I keep coming to look at Alexander to see if he shows life. Not yet. If the glass breaks, will he start to rot? The next afternoon, Caravans arrived for day from Gilead and Araba. Arabia. I'm so sorry. Their camels were loaded with treasures that would be traded for our grain. The merchants have pitched their striped tents outside the city wall near the canal that brings Nile water to Lake Mariatosis. I watched from my roof garden, glad the stench of camels cannot reach me, though I always enjoy hearing the bells and bangles that hang from their saddles. When I saw some of our slaves carrying chests toward the palace, I was too excited to wait on the roof. I ran down the inside steps to wait in the courtyard. Bernice and Tryphenia were already there, of course. As princesses, we are the first in Alexandria to run our fingers through the sacks of spices, pinching small amounts to flick in the air like perfume. The courtyard was soon smelled with the sweet aromas of cinnamon, myrrh, cassia, and frankincense. My sisters and I are also the first to unwrap the parcels of silk. This fabric is so delicate we can see through it, and when we throw a piece in the air, it floats slowly. When we were younger, we used to run with it back and forth through the halls and around the columns, in and out, the silk flying from our outstretched hands like the lovely colored flags. But now that Tryphenia is so much older, she sits on the stool while bowing servants bring everything to her. Today she unfolded the silks as if they were dirty bed linens, then tossed them aside, bored. Next she pushed out a tress with her foot until it tipped over. Out spilled an elegant array of bracelets and sashes, Parisian slippers, mirrors, and ivy hair ornaments. Bernice and I glanced at each other. These things were much too beautiful to be thrown on the floor. Then Tryphenia reached into the crate and dug through the straw to uncover hundreds of tiny alabaster jars. She uncorked one. Instantly there was a wonderful scent of almond oil. How I loved to rub it in my skin after a bath. She sniffed it, frowned, then opened other jars. There was coconut oil, fine perfumes, and the balm of Gilead itself, a most prized item. The last chest to be opened was full of jewels and necklaces. I saw a rope of pearls that was so exquisite I could not help myself. As I started to clasp it around my neck, Tryphenia grabbed a dagger from inside her dress and placed it against my throat. I felt the sharp edge scrape against my skin. Slowly I handed the pearls to my sister and backed out of the room. 8 Januaris, just before sunset. 5 days has passed since father disappeared. The snake that killed his slave Mentor is still loose in the palace. Its moist trail was seen last night near the bath. Servants are looking everywhere, but it hides itself well. I'm careful where I step and where I sit. This morning Aaron and I were in one of the small palace courtyards enjoying the winter sunlight when I heard shouts. I could see Tryphenia down the hallway pacing back and forth, her arms waving angrily. She was yelling at an official who held a scroll who seemed to be pleading with her. I overheard the words that brought joy to my heart. Father is alive. He's still the king, and I sent a message to my sister. If she doesn't stop pretending to be queen, he will have her executed. At this I slipped away so she would not see me, Arrow quietly at my side. I'm going to read until this page, and then I'm done for today. For the rest of the morning, I wandered along the harbor with Nevia, my favorite maid. We were dressed in the linen chintons of common Greek girls, so we could pass unnoticed among the fishermen. Rather than have her carry my sandals as usual, I held them myself so we would appear as two equals. I can look plain and unroyal when I want to. Also, because I'm able to speak with native Egyptians in their own language, I can mingle in the agora, the marketplace, without drawing attention to myself. A privacy I much enjoy. If commoners knew a princess walked among them, they would either smother her with affection or bother her about problems that belong to the king. One of my favorite guards, Puzzle, followed in a discreet distance. He is from the island of Sicily, But as a youth he was enslaved by the Romans and trained as a gladiator. He was fierce and proud, often compared to the famous Spartacus. When he was sent to Alexandria for amusement of my father, I brought his freedom before he was forced to fight. Ever since, Puzzo has kept me safe. When we are in public together, if I wish not to be noticed, he disguises himself often as an Arab in a dishdasha, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, a flowing white robe. Near the water's edge, Nevia and I met a Hebrew man, Jewish, selling figs and barley loaves from his cart. We purchased enough for a midday meal. Then we walked out to Pharaoh's Island on Heptestadation. This is the stone bridge that is high enough for boats to sail under from the east harbor. To the west. It is 1 mile long. Out here we can speak privately. Small tide pools among the rocks drew flocks of seagulls that shriek and cry with a noise and loud enough to keep anyone from hearing a conversation. Alright, so I'm going to go till the end of this, and I'm not going to read it. Nevi is pure Macedonian Greek, like I am, descended from the royal servants of Ptolemy I, of course, am descended from Ptolemy himself, though Nevi and I share the same light skin and blue eyes, and could pass as sisters. We are content with our inherited roles. She as a maid, I as a princess. A skilled listener makes a good friend, and this perfectly describes Nebiah. She is a few years older than I. Perhaps she's 15. I trust her with my lay. My secrets are hers. To my knowledge, she has never betrayed a confidence. This morning, as we stepped around the tide pools, there were 2 things I wanted to tell her. I fear father will be murdered, and if he is, I, Cleopatra, want to be, and should be, queen. This may seem an odd confession, but my thoughts are sound. Father has 6 living children by his 2 wives, long dead. I have no memory of my mother, for I was quite small when she died. Father's daughters are Tryphenia, Bernice, myself, and little Arsenion. His sons are just babies, Ptolemy I and Ptolemy the younger. Of all my siblings, I am the only one who can speak the language of native Egyptians and other foreigners who live in our beautiful Alexandria. For reasons unknown to myself, the gods have gifted me with learning tongues. Just for my daily visits to the agora and fishing villages, I have learned to speak with the peasants from Ethiopia, Syria, and Arabia. I'm beginning to understand the Hebrew Jewish scholars by studying in the library and the Masion, our great learning center dedicated to the 9 muses. The muses, of course, are our goddesses of poetry, music, art, and so forth. This gift of befriending people will make me better queen than Tryphenia, who hates the Jews and the Medes. It will help me better than Bernice, the sister I love, who is too afraid of the streets to venture out of our royal apartments. A queen must understand her subjects and care for them. This describes me. I'm sorry to say this about Arsenion, because she's just 9 years, but she's as spoiled and mean as our eldest sister, Tryphenia. If father is killed, then one of us will become pharaoh. Oh, I do not want him to die, but I want to be ready, if necessary, to be Egypt's ruler, the best ever known. I must apply myself to gain wisdom. Tomorrow is another day to read more Cleopatra. I'm sorry, but I have to stop reading. But have a good day. And yeah, if you like it, comment. If you don't, you didn't have to watch the whole thing. Bye.